Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 11th overall spot using FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock draft are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex kicker defense, and 6 bench spots. We're going to be drafting up against the expert consensus rankings of FantasyPros, as well as the composite ADP from ESPN, NFL Sleeper, and RT Sports. I did adjust the wide receiver positional value too high because this year, unlike past seasons, we are really seeing wide receivers come off the board much earlier and at a much higher rate early on in fantasy drafts. But before we can get on into this 12-team PPR mock draft from the 11th overall spot, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below while you're down there. Whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 2023 fantasy football mock draft from the 11th overall spot. So the draft begins with Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Stephon Diggs, and Bijan Robinson. Nothing really all that out of the ordinary. You should expect players like this to go in the first 10 picks. Now, obviously, sometimes people won't take Bijan. They might take CeeDee Lamb or AJ Brown ahead of them, but still, this is a very normal first 10 picks of a draft. I still can't get around to pulling the trigger on Kelce at the 105, the 106. I'm a lot more confident at, say, pick 8 or 9. I get why people do it. It's so safe. It just feels incredibly safe having that comfort of having a tight end that every single week you don't have to worry about. You're never throwing Kelce into your lineup and worrying, shaking when you throw him into your lineup. You're not worried that Travis Kelce is going to hit you with the 619 fucking Rey Mysterio and put up 3 fantasy points for your team, right? He could put up 30 fantasy points for your team and destroy your opponent. So Travis Kelce is an incredibly safe pick. I just don't think I can personally stomach taking him that high, especially when there's guys like Bijan, Eckler, Diggs, all of these great players that are still available at that point. So looking at the board here, the world is still very much our oyster. CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, and Amon-Ra, best available wide receivers. Best available running backs, Tony Pollard, Jonathan Taylor, and Nick Chubb. I am not someone that is now full fading Jonathan Taylor because of his situation in Indy, but it makes me very unlikely to draft him in the first round, and just as unlikely to draft him when things swing back around at the 202. Now, if I was at like the 208 and Jonathan Taylor was still there, I'm willing to take the risk, but right now, where we're picking, I just don't feel confident or comfortable doing so. With the situation being like, maybe he does get traded, maybe he actually holds out. Now, he has 0 leverage in this situation, but maybe he does hold out, and just that fear alone in the back of my head scares me away from drafting him. So we're going to go receiver here. I personally have Devontae Adams ranked the highest, but I think there's a chance we could go double wide receiver here and get Devontae Adams coming back in the second round. So I think this time we're going to go with either CeeDee Lamb or AJ Brown. It's really a pick your poison to me, both in the NFC East, both in offenses with great, or maybe not great quarterbacks, Dak Prescott, but with solid quarterbacks, solid offenses. CeeDee Lamb has gotten better every single year in the NFL. I think I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I feel like he has a much stronger grasp on the wide receiver 1 role in his offense compared to AJ Brown, because AJ Brown also has Devontae Smith, but that doesn't mean I dislike AJ Brown. It's kind of just the tiebreaker between the two. But if I'm being honest with you, if I was in 10 drafts at the 111 and CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown are there all 10 times, I'm probably taking CeeDee in half of them and AJ Brown the other half. So after CeeDee, AJ Brown, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we could potentially go with the double wide receiver tap here with Devontae Adams and CeeDee Lamb, but the thing is, by the time we get to pick again, it is very possible at the 3.11 that the running backs that are available are straight up dog shit, and I don't mean that they are actually terrible running backs, like Joe Mixon, like Travis Etienne, Aaron Jones, but they're just not guys that I'm enamored to draft in the third round. They're not guys that, again, I love Joe Mixon, I love the upside he has, same with Aaron Jones, but not right there. Like, I don't feel super confident with them being my RB1, whereas if I start with CeeDee Lamb and I draft 9-inch Nicholas Chubb here, I still feel very confident in my team, both starting off with a great wide receiver that has the upside to be top 3, a running back that, in my opinion, I think Nick Chubb could be the #1 running back. Now, the fact that we drafted Lamb and not A.J. Brown or Adams or Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of pushes me away from Tony Pollard. I think both Lamb and Pollard could have successful seasons, but you are so heavily week in and week out hinging on the Dallas Cowboys because you drafted them #1 with your #1 pick, your #2 pick, right? I just can't do that. Again, could it work? Could they both finish top 3? 100%. But I would rather take a shot on 2 different offenses with my first 2 picks. So we go with 9-inch Nicholas Chubb there. I have talked him up a ton. It might seem like beating a dead horse at this point, but I really do think the pass-catching upside of Nick Chubb is greatly increased with Kareem Hunt gone. I think Deshaun Watson is going to look significantly better than what he looked like at the end of last season. I think that the best approach to winning a game for the Browns is just running the ball a bunch. Nick Chubb is a big boy, and if he's catching more passes, this Browns team's able to move the ball more effectively with Watson. There's reason to believe Nick Chubb could be the league leader in rushing yards as well as rushing touchdowns. After Nick Chubb, we see Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, Tony Pollard, Pat Mahomes, Ramondre Stevenson, Garrett Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle away, waddle, till the very next day. Derrick Henry, the 3rd round, opens with Josh Allen, followed by Mark Andrews, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Joe Mixon, Keenan Allen, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Jalen Hurts, and Jahmyr Gibbs. So the big 3 quarterbacks all off the board by the 3.09. I think in most leagues you're going to see Allen, Mahomes, and Hurts all gone by close to the end of the 3rd round. There are going to be drafts where obviously Mahomes or Allen or Hurts go in the 1st round, but I think in most drafts, maybe you see one sprinkled into the 2nd round and then the other 2 come quickly in the 3rd round. They need some Roman swipes. No ad, no free ads for Roman ads, but, it be coming fast, you know what I'm saying? So we're back up on the board, Nick Chubb and CeeDee Lamb. So just as I suspected, right? We didn't draft Nick Chubb. We might be staring down the barrel at having to draft Aaron Jones or Kenneth Walker as our RB1, which just doesn't feel amazing. Like, it's possible Walker comes back from the injury. He's amazing. It's possible that Aaron Jones defies the odds of Jordan Love and is amazing. I think Aaron Jones is going to be amazing, but in the 3rd round, like, to me, I feel confident in Aaron Jones at the beginning of the 4th. Just not in the 3rd. Looking at the receivers, Chris Olave, Higgins, Amari Cooper, and Calvin Ridley. I think I might end up moving Chris Olave ahead of T. Higgins. T. Higgins is definitely the much safer pick, so if you want to go with safety, you can go with T. Higgins. I am a little bit worried about Joe Burrow. I worry that maybe this injury lingers into the beginning of the season. Maybe he re-aggravates the injury. Now, I talk about this a ton as well. I am not a doctor. I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, just like I'm as much of a plumber or an electrician as him. So I'm not necessarily the best guy to ask when it comes to injuries, but it does scare me a little bit away from T. Higgins right now. Same thing with Jamar Chase. Not full fade, but a little bit more nervous. Though if T. Higgins does fall back to me in the 3rd round, I'm fine taking him, or in the 4th round, I should say. Chris Olave is a guy that I am definitely nervous about as well. But at the end of the day, I understand the upside that Chris Olave presents. I understand that if Michael Thomas isn't able to stay healthy, or if Michael Thomas isn't going to possess the amount of targets that I think he could, Chris Olave could legitimately be a top 5 receiver in fantasy football. I think Derek Carr's a pretty decent quarterback. After Olave, Calvin Ridley, and Lamar Jackson. So we do end up getting T. Higgins to fall to us at the 402. I feel very safe with him at this pick. Again, with Jamar Chase healthy, he'll probably never hit his peak of being like a top 5 wide receiver weekly, but he's also a guy that I think will game in and game out be reliable in your lineup and probably never end up being the guy that sticks the fucking harpoon in your back during the season and ends up screwing your team completely over. He might not win you a bunch of weeks, but he's a safe, reliable option. After T. Higgins, we see Joe Shiesty, Aaron Jones, Amari Cooper, Deebo Samuel, DeAndre Hopkins, Damian Pierce, Miles Sanders, Tyler Lockett, in my pocket, skirt, Chris Godwin, TJ Hawkinson, Christian Watson, Kenneth Walker, the 3rd, Justin Herbert, Herbert the Pervert, Terry McLaurin, Rashad White, J.K. Dobbins, George Kittle, Justin Fields, DJ Moore, as well as Drizzy Drake London. I love me some Justin Fields, but sadly he did not fall to us in the 5th round. I like Trevor Lawrence as well, but if I'm being honest with you, I'd rather just wait at this point. I don't think I need to reach and take Lawrence in the 5th or the 6th round. I just don't feel super confident in doing so. There's been a lot of buzz on Jerry Jeudy early on, and now I'm starting to see a lot of steam about the other wide receiver in the offense, Courtland Sutton. That Courtland Sutton's really dominating 50 Shades of Grey style in training camp. We'll see what actually happens comes the regular season. I still think Jerry Jeudy's the better bet, but maybe I need to start sprinkling in a little bit of Courtland Sutton into these drafts. This is a running back tier right here, according to FantasyPros, tier 4, Cam Akers, James Conner, and Alexander Mattison, that I like a ton. I would be excited to get 2 of these backs onto my team. Hopefully the team number 12 doesn't go with 2 running backs, but at the end of the day, they probably will because they started 3 wide receivers and then 1 quarterback, but you never know. Never really know. Maybe they go with a tight end. They love Darren Waller or something. So Akers, Connor, Madison, you could really flip a coin with these guys. Obviously, you might need to flip like a 3-sided die to figure out who you want. I'm going to lean with Madison. I think he is the guy that I will end up having ranked the highest come the end of August. There was initially an injury scare with him, but I do think that Alexander Mattison does possess a lot of upside. I understand the Minnesota Vikings aren't this crazy run-heavy team like they had been in the past where Dalvin Cook was just beasting game in and game out. I get it. They want to throw the ball a lot more with Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, they have the best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, in Justin Jefferson. So it makes sense. But besides Alexander Mattison, I get they have other running backs behind him, but they cannot even carry the jock strap, hold the jock strap of Alexander Mattison. I think he's just much better than those guys after Alexander Mattison. We see James Conner and the boy Darren Waller. So we are going to be able to double tap the running back position here, which I feel pretty confident in doing. I want to start drafting DeAndre Swift a little bit more as well. I've seen a decent amount of hype for him going and lining up out wide, maybe catching a bunch of balls this season. I think that's possible. I think Swift's a great pass catcher, but we already go with Cam Akers here. There is easily a case where Cam Akers ends up flaming out, where Cam Akers ends up being a steaming pile of dog shit, right? It's very easy to paint that picture Bob Ross style, right? The way you see that picture is that the LA Rams are a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. Cooper Kupp maybe doesn't return from that injury correctly. Maybe he misses a bunch of games. Maybe Stafford comes back and he looks like the fucking grandfather from Courage the Cowardly Dog, right? Walking around with the cane, right? Maybe he's not the guy he used to be, and maybe this Rams offense is a complete and utter fucking flop like Jamarcus Russell in the 1st round. Or maybe they're just mid and Cam Akers is good enough. Now, Cam Akers, if you drafted him last year, you might have felt burnt by the season that he produces. I know there's a lot of people that drafted Akers last year and will say, no, I'm not touching him again because of that. But understand this year you're getting him at more of a discount because there's still people that are worried about him. The offense baked in, there is more to be nervous about. But again, when you look at the running back core behind Cam Akers, nothing should tell you that someone's going to come from behind and steal this guy's job. He's clearly the RB1. He came down the pipe of the season incredibly hot. He was on fire, NBA Jam style, and I'm ecstatic to get Cam Akers there in the 6th round. After Akers, Jerry Jeudy, Dalvin Cook, Mike Williams, Mike Evans, Hollywood Brown, Trevor Lawrence, Dallas Goedert, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift, Deontay Johnson, Alvin Kamara in the 7th, David Montgomery, Treylon Burks, Daniel Jones, Brandon Ayuk, Dak Prescott, Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, Kadarius Toney, Jackson Smith, Najigba. So Alvin Kamara, the verdict is in. Judge Judy herself ruled that Alvin Kamara will be suspended for 3 games. Trace games, as they say in Espanol. So what does that mean? To me, I was shocked by that. Understood it was in the realm of 2 to 6 games. I thought more likely 4 to 6 games. Alvin Kamara, to me, looked like he had lost a step last season. Now, I'm not saying that Alvin Kamara is washed and halfway into the fucking retirement home, but I think the selection of Kendre Miller, as high as they selected him, the fact that they bring in Jamal Williams, and the fact that they still have Taysom fucking Hill scares me. Now, the 7th, 8th round, sure, take your shot on Alvin Kamara. But I think in a lot of more of the casual leagues, people will see Alvin Kamara in the 4th round. They will think, gee willikers, I remember Alvin Kamara. G. Willikers. I remember this top 12 running back. This guy that scored 1,000,000 touchdowns on fucking Christmas. The guy that brought me my mortgage payment on Christmas because of that big game he had in the fantasy championship. I get it. And I think he still has it in him to do that. But there's a lot of negative factors. The goal line carries clearly not going to be there when Jamal Williams is there. There's pass catching opportunities that could be stolen by Kendre Miller. Maybe this offense is better. They should be better under Derek Carr compared to Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton from last season and even Taysom Hill. But Taysom Hill is still there, who just has blackmail on the whole entire Saints organization because this guy's like a fucking flea, a tick. He's just stuck to you at all times. He's going to run in some touchdowns. He's going to steal goal line opportunities. I think if you draft Alvin Kamara expecting him to return to that former glory, you're crazy. I get it in the 7th round. I get all the upside that he possesses. It's just not for me, if I'm being honest with you right now. Now, we might get to late August, and maybe it's just clear that Kendre Miller is the guy for the future, right? They're not going to use him much. And maybe Jamal Williams gets hurt or something, knock on wood, right? Then you can talk yourself into Alvin Kamara. But right now, where he went, I'm like really out on Kamara. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about him. And again, another factor into this is for 3 fucking weeks, this guy's dead weight in your lineup if you don't have an IR spot where you can throw a suspended player. He's just sitting there watching as everyone else in your league is picking up all these fun waiver wire options. He's just stuck there. And also, there's a chance that Kendre Miller starts off hot, Jamal Williams starts off hot, and they take away more opportunities for Kamara because of that. Again, that's the negative case. There's still the positive case that, hey, he's still Alvin Kamara, this, that, and the other thing. He catches 1,000,000 balls, and he ends up being good. I think that is still in the realm of possibilities, but just not what I think is the most likely thing to happen. So we got Nick Chubb, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Alexander Mattison, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Higgins, and Cam Akers on the squad right now. I do like Deshaun Watson, but if I'm being honest with you, in the 7th round, I think I would rather just wait and get another quarterback a little bit later. We just added Akers to the team. I think at this spot, knowing we do kind of have back-to-back picks, I'm going to take the shot on Kyle Pitts. I know a lot of people are fully out on Kyle Pitts. I have just dove back in. I have been fading Kyle Pitts like it was my job. I was hiding from him. I have been scared of drafting him for years, like he was Jason Voorhees trying to chase me down. But ultimately, now he goes in the 7th, the 8th round. Now, a lot of the risk is negated by that. I understand the Atlanta Falcons offense might be a complete and utter certified flop, but maybe Kyle Pitts, that freak athlete, gets 110 targets. Maybe he gets what he did his rookie year. He finishes as a top 3 tight end. Now, he didn't finish as a top 3 tight end in 2021 because he only scored 1 touchdown, but maybe he scores 6 touchdowns, and that's good enough to elevate him, right? Maybe Desmond Ridder's a little bit better than I think. Maybe Kyle Pitts escapes the metaphorical doghouse that it felt like he was thrown in and they locked away the key last season, right? Maybe the addition of Bijan Robinson changes this offense. Maybe the fact that they're able to run so effectively, it adds opportunities for Pitts to score more touchdowns. I mean, this guy is a generational talent. Generational. Let's see if it pays off this year in the 7th round. Again, if Kyle Pitts was going in the 4th, the 5th round, I would be fading. I'd be running away like it was the fucking bubonic plague. But it's not in the 7th round. So after Kyle Pitts, Antonio Gibson and Javonte Williams, I think we could either go running back or wide receiver with this pick. I do like a lot of the late round running backs that go, so we'll probably end up going with a wide receiver here. Jahan Dotson, Pickens, Jordan Addison Ray, Brandon Cooks, all still available. We did draft CeeDee Lamb, so for me, I don't necessarily want to be starting 2 wide receivers on the same team all the time. I think you can talk yourself into it with offenses like the Dallas Cowboys, but I think we're not going to go with Cooks here. I want to be going with Jahan Dotson. The Commanders are another offense that on paper a lot of people don't love, right? Sam Howell or Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback, but I think Jahan Dotson has a lot of upside. This was a guy that had some spike games last year. This was a guy that at the end of the season, another guy who perked up towards the end of the season, looked a lot better. Eric Bieniemy, now the offensive coordinator. Jahan Dotson's a guy with 1st round NFL draft capital, a 1st round 2022 NFL draft pick. A lot of people scoffed at the pick when it was made, but the Commanders clearly view him in a very high manner. And I think that Jahan Dotson, under better quarterback play, really could be sensational. After Jahan, Dotson, George Pickens, Jordan Addison Ray, Brandon Cooks, James Cook, Brian Robinson, Elijah Moore, A.J. Dillon, Rashad Master Bateman, Deshaun Watson, San Francisco 49ers defense, Jamal with 2 A's, Williams, Khalil, Herbert, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Jerick McKinnon, Sky with 2 Y's, Moore, Rashad with 2 A's, Penny, Michael Thomas, Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham Jr., and Quentin Johnston. So here we are going to select the boy Tua Tagovailoa. Now I know when I say to draft Tua, it sends a shiver down the spine of many, right? Some people think that Tua is just injury prone. Tua is going to get hurt again, the concussions, this, that, and the other thing. Well, Tua is wearing the state-of-the-art helmet. He's wearing a helmet that is so big, he looks like fucking Darth Helmet from Spaceballs, right? He's got that big-ass helmet on, right? Like Peyton Manning's got that big forehead. But Tua Tagovailoa has legitimate top 5 upside. Now, he's not going to run the ball a bunch, but he is in an offense with the best, in my opinion, some of the best weapons in the NFL. Waddle and Tyreek, to me, are the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. Speed is unreal. Then, they also have Devin 2 Chains, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, guys that can catch passes. Jeff Wilson, not the fastest, but A-Chain, Mostert, super speed. So now, Tua stays healthy. Mike McDaniel makes this offense better. Their wide receiver 3 is either Braxton Berrios, Robbie Chosen Anderson, or Cedric Wilson. Solid wide receiver 3. Nothing crazy, but solid. I get the risk of Tua getting hurt. But to me, when you get early on in fantasy drafts, I know I sound like a broken record. Nick, I listen to you all the time. You say this all the time. Yeah, I know. Early on in fantasy drafts, you want to be safe. You want to wrap the Trojan. You want to wrap the Durex around your roster, the condom. But as you get deeper and deeper into the draft, you want to take more risks. Tua might be a risk to many, but the upside is so high with the offensive skill position players he has around him. If you draft Tua and say, Nick, worried about the injury, I want to draft Tua, and I want to spin back around and draft Kirk Cousins. Or Geno, Rodgers, Goff, Juan Anthony Richardson. Go ahead. I'm not going to shame you for that one bit. I might even draft 2 quarterbacks on this team, even though I don't typically do that. So we're back up on the board after Tua. We see Samaje Perine followed by Jaylen Warren. So I think it's time to dive back into the running backs. Right now is the best time to be drafting Charbonnet. I think his ADP is going to continue to move up. Kenneth Walker still dealing with the groin issue. Zach Charbonnet, it seemed like the world was ending for Charbonnet. The news was out indefinitely with shoulder injury 5 days ago. And then, like an RKO from Randy Orton out of nowhere, Zach Charbonnet is practicing on Thursday, right? So if Walker misses time, Charbonnet continues to cut into that lead, right? Make more of an impact on the team. An offense that's going to be solid. Charbonnet is a great pass catcher. Maybe Walker misses some time. Charbonnet plays great those first couple games. That's great. Maybe he even takes the job. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think it's possible. After Zach Charbonnet, we see Juju Smith-Schuster, Corvette, Gabe Davis, Zay Flowers, Buffalo Bills, Jacoby Myers, Jameson Williams, Nico Collins, Alan Lazard, Damian Harris, Jeff Wilson, Rondale Moore, Tyler, Boyd, Michael Gallup, Elijah Mitchell, David Njoku, Kendre Miller, Devin 2 Chains, Adam Thielen, Zay Jones, and Easy Evan Ingram back up on the clock here. We already have Kyle Pitts. We paid up for him. I'm not drafting a second tight end. Some people will be worried with him. They want to draft a second one. I'm not drafting 2 tight ends on this team. I'm going to go with either a running back or a wide receiver at this spot. We have at running back Nick Chubb, Alexander Mattison. We have Akers and Charbonnet. So I think we need another running back here with some decent upside. I want to go Tank Bigsby. It's going to tell us it's a reach. I think this is a very fair spot to take him in the 11th round. There has been a lot of praise sent his way. Tank Bigsby impressing in short yardage situations, which means maybe he will end up being the goal line back. Travis Etienne is definitely not the biggest guy out there. They also have talked about Etienne, or I've talked about Etienne's downfall in catching passes. They've been talking about Tank Bigsby, a great pass catcher. Tank Bigsby did a lot with very little at Auburn. He's now being entered into a situation where he could do a lot in a great situation in Jacksonville. After Bigsby, John Mechie starting to crawl up the boards here, knowing that he's fully healthy, followed by Pat Fryer Muth. Obviously, I am heavily rooting for John Mechie after what happened to him last season, right? Learning about, I believe he had leukemia. That is terrible. Glad he was able to beat it, and I hope he is successful, right? Anytime something messed up happens to a player, it doesn't even matter if I didn't like the player going into the NFL, right? I actually always liked John Mechie, but if I didn't like the player, right? Brian Robinson, I didn't love Brian Robinson necessarily. The guy got shot. I hope he rushes for the most rushing yards ever in the NFL. I hope he does, because of something like that. It makes the guy much better, much more fun to root for, and Mechie was already a great player, so even better for him. Same thing with Brian Robinson. I like Brian Robinson a ton. Even if I don't love him in fantasy, I still think he's a very fun guy to root for. Shout out to the boy, Brian Robinson. What a goat. So now we are on the board again here, back on the clock. Dobbs, Chark, DPJ. If you watch my channel before, you already know who it is, and it ain't Silento. It's fucking DJ Chark, baby Chark. I think this guy's going to end up the wide receiver 1 in Carolina. I know, rookie quarterback, Frank Reich offense, this, that, and the other thing. But man, oh man, I've been impressed by DJ Chark in the past. I think he really is going to be the guy in Carolina. I've seen clips of him. He looks good. I think he's a great sleeper pick to be the number 1 receiver in Carolina. And anytime you get the number 1 receiver on an offense this late in drafts, I'm taking the shot on that. After DJ Chark, we see Dalton Schultz, Jawan Johnson, Dalton Kincaid, Jonathan Mingo, which sounds like a porn star name, Hunter Renfro, Tyler Algier, Chig Okonkwo, Tyler Higbee, Jared Goff, Raheem the Dream Mostert, Devin Singletary, Donta Foreman, Kenneth Gainwell, Geno Smith, Rashawn Johnson, Aaron Rodgers, Chuba Hubbard, Cordell Patterson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Jerome Bode. We're back up on the board here. We're going with the second quarterback. We're going with Anthony Richardson. I think this guy's going to end up being like a top 8 quarterback pick in a lot of drafts. He is the definition of the Konami code, the OP running quarterback. He's been taking all the first round reps at practice. The receiver core there isn't amazing with Pittman and Josh Downs and Alec Pierce, but at the end of the day, Anthony Richardson, there's a lot worse situations to be in. If Jonathan Taylor's there, I think that is better for Anthony Richardson. But maybe if Anthony Richardson isn't there, or not if Anthony Richardson is there, if Jonathan Taylor just decides to hold out, maybe Anthony Richardson gets even more rushing opportunity. This is a guy you want to take a shot on, especially as your quarterback too. I'm fine even taking him as my number 1 quarterback. And maybe the first couple of weeks it's hard. It's not the best, but the upside is there. The ceiling is there with the incredible rushing prowess that he has after Anthony Richardson, Cowboys defense, and Ty Chandler. We're back up on the clock here. We're going to go kicker. We're going to go Evan McPherson this time. I think there's a debate to have between who the best kicker is. I'm not necessarily going to have it with you right now, but I think there is not necessarily just one. Like, if I'm taking the first kicker off the board, I'm not taking Bucker every time or Tucker every time. I'm going to just mix them in. After McPherson, we see Tucker, Eagles defense, Patriots defense, Komet, Bass, Cardinals, Jets, Carlson, Bucker, KJ Osborne, Graham Gano, bunch of kickers, bunch of defenses. We're on the board here to select our defense. This is the greatest thing I will ever tell you guys, is how to draft defense. I know, Nick, I like the Niners defense. I like the Eagles defense. Well, sometimes the Niners defense goes in the 8th round, which I think is a stupid pick. Why do you want to have a defense that maybe might not be amazing? Because you want to draft a defense that's playing a not-so-hot opponent in week 1. Eagles are going to run into buzzsaw offenses, 49ers, and they won't be successful. But it's a lot easier to project every week and pick up off the waiver wire defense that has a not-so-hot opponent in week 1. The Saints, I think the Saints are a little bit better now, right? Now, the Saints defense is good, but I think their opponent's a little bit better now with DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm not necessarily in love with the Saints defense, but they get the Titans, right? You can see Tannehill throwing a pick or two in that game. The Commanders, they got the Arizona Cardinals and going up against fucking Colt McCoy. And they're a good defense. No-brainer for me. So again, draft the defense, play a not-so-hot opponent in week 1. Then if week 2 comes around, the Commanders are going up against the Eagles, for instance. I don't know if they are. Just cut them and you pick up another defense. I make videos every single week about that during the season. So we got to be 84 to 100 talk about this a ton. To me, this team is a 1 million out of 100. So our team is quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, running backs are Nick Chubb and Alexander Madison, our receivers are Lamb and Olave, our tight end is Kyle Pitts, our flex is Higgins, we got McPherson, as well as the Commanders defense, left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. Our bench is Akers, Dotson, Charbonnet, Tank, Bigsby, DJ Chark, and Anthony Richardson. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think about today's mock draft. Do you love the team? Do you hate the team? Would you have done something different? I know we have seen a bunch of requests for like 8-team leagues, 10-team leagues, 12-team leagues, 14-team leagues from this pick, that pick, half PPR, full PPR, standard, super flex, this, that, the other thing. I'm going to try to get to it all in August. I'm trying my best to do other things than just PPR, mock drafts, 12-team, 10-team, this, that, and the other thing. Hope you guys understand that it's going to take some time for that to come out. Try my best to get to everything. I do love you guys all from deep down in my heart. Again, I talked about this yesterday. We hit 4.5 million views on the YouTube. That is so crazy. So crazy to me. I never imagined this is how things would go when I first started. I love you guys all from deep down in my heart. There'll be some news about the draft guide soon. My rankings, if you guys want them. I love you guys genuinely deep down from the bottom of my heart. Hope you guys have a good one. As always. Good boy! Oh, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well. Good boy!